Okay, so now we have attorney Steve Kramer. Are you out there? He's got a wonderful story for you. He's been on our stage once before. Please welcome back, straight from fantasy camp, Steve Kramer.
Speaking of the 70s, it was 1977, I believe, that the age of free agency for Major League Baseball players started. Back the first time when the millionaires started getting paid that kind of money. I was only 24 years old. I was a Red Sox fanatic, but I was also a law student at the time, and I was becoming more and more interested in consumer protection, helping people out. So I remember that Bill Campbell, some of you might remember, was the first free agent that the Red Sox actually signed in 1977. 5 years, $1 million. And coincidentally, right after they signed Campbell, within a week or two, the bleacher tickets went from $1.50 to $2. And that began my career in consumer protection. Because when opening day came, a couple of months later, I took an old bed sheet. I spread it on the rug in my apartment in Brighton and spray painted, "Sell Campbell, bring back $1.50 bleachers." Now actually I made two signs. The second sign was the rug itself, but unfortunately the landlord never saw that. I took that sign on opening day, and with a friend I went to Fenway Park very early, and I taped it with masking tape to the wall in back of the center field bleachers. And for the first 6 innings, that sign got no attention at all. Everybody, understandably, is watching the game. Ferguson Jenkins was pitching for the Red Sox. The Red Sox were winning. The pitcher for Cleveland at that point, believe it or not, was Dennis Eckersley, who they were winning, who they were beating. But in the 7th inning, everything changed because the brand new $1 million reliever for the Red Sox came in, Bill Campbell, and he proceeded to blow the game, and he lost. A few more people during the 7th and 8th innings started to look up at the sign and say, that must be that guy. So I went home, went back to Brighton, looked at the paint all over the rug, and turned on the TV just to watch the highlights and the lowlights of how the Red Sox had lost that day. Well, there wasn't much of a reporting on what happened in the game. It was all fans start new era of protesting free agency. And all 3 of the Boston stations were talking about how there was a sign in center field talking about protesting that Bill Campbell, the new millionaire, had blown the game. The next day, the Herald, the Globe, and for some of you who may remember it, the Record American, huge stories about the fact that the fans were upset about the fact that the Red Sox were paying this kind of money. Did it mention me? No. Was there a picture of the sign? No. Well, I felt a little bit bad about the fact that Campbell was the one who was getting all the ire for what had happened. I didn't mean it against him. I just wanted to protect consumers. So I decided, and then they had an interview with Campbell, and he said, look, I don't resent the fact that people have a right to protest. I wish there was this picture of it in the paper. There's no pictures. So I got an idea. And the next day, it was sleeting out. It was raining like crazy. I knew that the game would get canceled. So I put on a jacket and tie, probably the only one I had during law school, and I went down to the Fenway Motor Inn, right in back of Fenway Park, because I knew the players all stayed there. And like Dustin Hoffman asking for Mrs. Robinson in The Graduate, I went right up to the counter and said, I'd like to see Mr. Campbell. And they said, is he expecting you? And I said, oh, absolutely. They said, would you like to call him up? I said, sure. I lost his number. Can you give me his number? I called him upstairs. He answered the phone. And I said, Bill, my name's Steve Kramer. I'm the one that put up the sign the other day. I noticed in the paper that you had wanted to have a picture of it, and there were no pictures. So I've gone one step better, and I've actually got the sign, and I want to give it to you. He said, well, that's great. You can drop it off at Fenway. I said, no, I'm downstairs. You can come down and meet me. And believe it or not, he came downstairs in about 10 minutes. I had a great meeting with him. He told me about the reasons he had signed with the Red Sox. He had only been offered about a $7,500 raise from Minnesota the year before. He was a Vietnam vet with a decorated history, and we actually kept in touch for the next year and a half, and he got me tickets a couple of times, and he was a great guy. Flash ahead about 20 years to 1998. I and about 60 other wish I could have beens and wanted to be's went to a Red Sox fantasy camp down in Fort Myers, Florida. See, it still fits a little bit. And it was a great, barely, that's right. It's enough out of you. And then what happened was we were all picked. I was picked by Bernie Carbo and Bill Lee, who are my coaches for the week. Carl Yastrzemski greeted us there. And lo and behold, who was one of the first people that I met there but Bill Campbell, who was there as a pitching scout for the White Sox at the time. We spent some time talking about it. And what was terrific is the first game that we got to play, Yastrzemski was watching the game with his agent because his agent's son was put on our team. And the game started. I went out to left field. And I can still remember looking in at the bleachers and seeing Carl Yastrzemski sitting in the bleachers. And I said, "You got to be kidding me. Carl Yastrzemski sitting in the bleachers watching me play left field. I got to hold on to this for a few minutes." I went in first time up, line drive, base hit. The other team got up, first inning, caught a nice fly ball in left field. And as I ran in triumphantly into the bench, I see Yastrzemski and his agent starting to walk away. So I go up and says, "Yes, what are you doing? It's only the first inning." And he said, "I've checked it out. There's absolutely no talent here whatsoever." My day in the sun turned into a solar eclipse. My heart sunk like the Titanic, and I probably struck out the next time, but it was fun. Anyway, the highlight of the week, by far, is the last day of camp when the players get a chance to play against the pros. It's only about 4 innings, and you only get about 1 at bat. So I waited patiently, and in the 3rd inning, it was my time. Gaylord Perry, who some of you might remember, was pitching for the Giants. I got in there, I dug in, I got ready, he stared in for his signal, I stared out at him, and then there was a timeout. I said, what is this? What, they can stop the game before I get the hit? And over the loudspeakers there was an announcement. Now pitching for the pros, number 22, Bill Campbell. Oh my God. Well, Campbell takes his few warm-ups, and then he stares in to get the signal. I stare back at him. He throws that first pitch, and it went 2 feet behind my head. I glared out at Campbell. He glared in at me. And then everybody between Campbell and I and everybody else on both teams started laughing hysterically because they knew exactly what the whole thing was all about. There's a moral to this story, too. And that is, it's great to be a fan. It's great to get into consumer protection. But if you do, and you take it to the next step, and you start putting up signs, someday there may be a payback. And I learned that when it comes to a payback is a pitch.